Okay, let's talk about the background of the project. This project was shot about 3 weeks ago when I was on holidays visiting my family in Germany, and my brother asked me if I want to help him shoot a project for a restaurant which was hosting a dinner night in collaboration with a sushi restaurant. And we had about 2 hours to capture both photo and video, and if you haven't seen the video yet, this is how it turned out. Let's talk about the pre-production. In any shoot or production, some level of pre-production is essential, especially for someone like me who can be a bit more forgetful. Having a short list helps to keep things clear so you don't get lost in the pre-production or feel overwhelmed with too much footages. In this case, the shoot was quite spontaneous, so there was no pre-production. But I created a Milanote pre-production list that breaks down how I shoot this YouTube video, for example, so I have a clear vision of what I want to put into this video. But also this will be the framework I use for future projects and also for the YouTube videos. Kept the setup very lightweight. My brother shot photos and some video on the Lumix S5 and the Olympus OMD Mark III using a 42mm prime. I think it's a 1.2 or 1.8, and also for the S5 he used a 20 to 60 millimeters. For video I used the Blackmagic Cinema 6K full frame. I only have 3 prime Konica vintage lenses. I took 2 primes. One was the 50mm f1.2 or 1.4, and the other one was the 24mm 2.8. On the prime lenses, by the way, I was also using the Nizi 125 stop VND, and that's pretty much all the gear we used. I didn't have a shotgun mic like the Sennheiser that I'm talking to right now. I only brought the Konica Boom XD Pro. For the lighting, it was also very minimal. We had one tube light, a small cheap pocket light from Amazon I think, and the Godox ML150B powered by a power bank, and that's it actually. So let's go over to the production. The kitchen prepared 3 main dishes. One was vegetarian, duck and scallops, and everything moved very fast in between. The chefs, the waiters, my brother and me. So the space was quite hectic. I mean, it was a big kitchen, but still having so many people in one space, you know, it was quite challenging. But the challenge actually was capturing strong visuals while staying invisible and not interrupting the workflow. Let's talk about post-production. For the edit, I think music was the biggest challenge for me. I couldn't find the right track. I initially wanted to use traditional Japanese music, but it didn't fit the vibe at all, so I ended up using classical music. I was looking through a lot of platforms such as Epidemic Sound, Artlist and Audio. I ended up using the YouTube Studio library, which is also for free. But if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment down below. The YouTube audio library takes a little bit longer to find the right track, but once I did, the edit came together very quickly. Okay, let's talk about the color grading process. I'm using the Blackmagic Cinema 6K full frame, and my color grading always starts the same way. First, once the footage is in the media pool, I head straight to the color tab and select B-raw clip. Let's move over to the color tab. In the color tab, by default everything is grayed out, so the first important step is switching from project to clip. That unlocks the Blackmagic RAW controls where I can properly set my ISO, white balance and exposure. So white balance ISO is 1000. I just go back to the base ISO 640. Always check highlight recovery and apply LUT. I usually go into my basic color grading node structure. Usually it's just 3 nodes just to keep things quick and easy. First things first, let's do the noise reduction. Here we go into noise reduction, go into beta, motion range is medium. Same goes with the spatial noise reduction. And then I just play around with the temporal threshold and the spatial threshold until I think the image looks, in my eyes, okay there. It makes the image a bit more washed out, but therefore you get rid of the noise. The white balance, I can see here, the image is quite warm. It's also a look, but I wanted to keep it a bit cooler, a bit more neutral. So in the final edit, I think I chose 3300. So this is how it looks like. It doesn't look too warm and also not too cold either. The third and final, actually not the final, but the third node is about where I balance the image using the color grading wheel. I play around with these 3 wheels here, the gain, gamma and lift. Gain is for the highlights, the gamma is for midtones, and lift to lift the picture accordingly. So always important while doing the color grading balancing is to look at the scopes. In this case I'm using Parade, and I adjust the wheels until the channels are evenly spread. So nothing is clipping in the highlights and the shadows are also not crushed. I recognize in this area right here, this was a refrigerator with the home brand champagne bottles, and I saw that the image or the logo here was kind of washed out. So what I do is, if there are darker areas or I want to highlight something specific, I use mask. This helps to guide the viewer's attention. So what I do now is Option S, label your nodes so you don't get mixed up. Oh, not noise reduction, mask. Okay, so what I do, we go into the power tab right here, choose the circle will pop up, and then I just place it on top of the place where I want to highlight it, and I just adjust the circle until it's kinda in the same size of this logo right there. Adjust the wheels until it looks good in your eyes. There's no right or wrong, it just has to look good in my opinion. I mean, there is probably someone who could say something right now, but to me this looks good. What I do next is you go into the effects panel, effects tab, sorry, and then you're looking for sharpen. There we go, and then put the sharpen on top of the masking tool. Okay, after that I created another node by copying and pasting the previous masking node in the sake of the video, just to make it a bit quicker, and place it directly onto the reflection of the bottle. And the reflection didn't look very clear, so instead of affecting the whole image, I isolated just that area with the masking tool. In this node I also added the sharpening effect, just very subtle. And this is really important when you use the sharpening effect, just don't exaggerate. Otherwise, if you push it too far, you start seeing weird artifacts, and overall it just looks too digital and it feels unnatural. So the goal is just to make it sharp, but to make it feel cleaner and more defined without, you know, drawing attention to the effect itself. So now you see a before and after with the color grade and without the color grade. And this is, I think, how you can really guide the viewer's attention to something specific. Okay, so looking back, this project really reminded me how much you learn just by doing. I had a lot of fun, and honestly, spending some quality time with my brother was probably the best part. It doesn't happen that often anymore since we're both busy with life, so this project wasn't just about work. It was about spending time together like we used to when we were younger. I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I knew I was ready for it. The whole project was very spontaneous, but I trusted my skills, and in the end, the video turned out actually really great, and I'm really happy what we created. This was my first project going into 2026, and I already know I'll be taking on more projects this year, while still balancing my work as a physiotherapist, so there's definitely more coming. For a long time, I was waiting for the perfect time, the perfect job, the perfect opportunity. But now I think it's better to just go out, shoot, and have fun. This wasn't a high-paid production, but I learned a lot about networking, business, and my workflow. And that experience alone was more than worth it. So thanks for watching and see you next time.
Sag mal, die zwei Bottles.
Warte mal.
Die zwei Bottles da.
Also. Verstehen?
Ja.